I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I get in my head about certain things. Sometimes I question why I decided to go the route that I decided to go. And then I want to bail out on the decision that I made inside my head to go forward with that idea. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I get burnt out. Sometimes I get so frustrated that I even considered going the route that I decided to go. Even when I started the route, even when I started the journey and the path that I'm on to go that direction. Sometimes I get so emotional about that decision. Sometimes I think that, is this decision the right one? Am I making a mistake going that way? Am I making a mistake going the way I thought I was going, the way that I put inside my mind to go? And sometimes I think that this decision isn't even the right one. We all have these things in life where we question what we decided to do, but then we look at it at the big picture and we decide that sometimes we just needed a break to reset ourselves from what monotony lies ahead. And sometimes it's hard to decide if that's the right way to go. Sometimes we aren't sure if that's correct. And we question again and again whether that decision or the path is the right way to go forward. And I thought this way recently. I went on a trip to Europe. I came back and I thought, I'm ready to do this life coaching thing. I'm ready to put myself full force into it. But I get into the monotony of day-to-day life and I think, why am I so unmotivated? Why is my focus fading? Why do I feel like this is useless? Why do I feel like this is going nowhere? And this attention or lack of attention is really struggling and trying on me. And these obstacles appear out of nowhere sometimes. Sometimes I'm so emotional and in my head that I think, why did I decide this route? Why did I think this was a good idea? Why did I start this with no intention of completing it when I had intentions in the beginning? But, I think this is a struggle that I face often in my head, and I just need to redirect my energy towards something that's positive, toward telling myself that this is going to work, this is going to happen. Sometimes we need someone to motivate us in the real world, and I mean not inside our head. And, sometimes just being in society and really interacting with others really remotivates and sets the standard for where we should be. So, for example, today I worked at the coffee shop and I really connected with some people and I felt really rejuvenated. And I think, I always wanted to finish the life coaching certification because I started recently, to be honest. But what I really struggled with was really placing my mind on the fact that I can make an impact and I can get the clientele I want and I can get the success I want out of this. And it's not even about success, but about helping others. For me, it's about humanity and really connecting people to the things that they need at the right time. And I struggled with that energy direction for a time. And I think it's about the cycle in your head where you have to redirect that energy to the right place at the right time. And if you have this energy boost from humanity, I think, we need community, we need connection. And when you struggle and you don't have that connection with the community to encourage you, sometimes you get in your head. It's no lie. And I think getting in my head is the biggest challenge I face sometimes because I struggle with, losing focus. I'm sure other people do too, but, I don't want to blame it 100% on ADHD, but it is easy for me to lose focus on something when I have to convince myself to finish a certain aspect of it. And I think, we are what we tell ourselves. So redirecting that energy, really taking a break and being with society and humanity and connection is what really makes a difference with how we feel about ourselves. Of course, if you're going to get negative feedback, that's not going to work. You want to be surrounded with positive people and positive affirmation, and really connecting with those that encourage you makes the difference. The people you surround yourselves with really impact the way you feel about yourself and the way you feel about your work, your intention, your motivation in life, because those that do not feel a certain way or have a certain energy will really struggle with a lot of direction in life. So we see struggle all the time And I think that's why a lot of people start projects and they don't finish, or they have an idea and they don't see it to a fruition. And when we struggle, we really challenge ourselves to really not be able to see the big picture. And I think the way I struggle when it comes to these things is struggling to see that it through, and struggling to acknowledge that, yes, there is some positivity coming out of this. Yes, I have the ability to make a difference in people's lives, and I have the ability to live out my purpose. And I think, so many people go through life without living for their purpose. And I know a lot of my podcasts are focused on purpose, but it's very true. And the motivation thing and the energy thing is so essential. And surrounding ourselves with positive energy, thinking positive, and telling ourselves again and again, our mind can be fickle sometimes. And we have to reassure ourselves or reaffirm with ourselves that positive energy is essential. And having a positive outlook, spending time with positive people, and having that affirmation in your life is so essential. And I know, different strokes for different folks, but, when it comes down to it, really focusing on what you really need and desire in life to see the success that you want out of life. Meaning, if you desire a certain thing, what's going to motivate you to get you there? Is it positive affirmation? Is it living a certain way? Is it being a certain way? Being inspired in a certain environment? Being inspired by changing up scenery day to day? And sometimes for me, it's structure. And I know it sounds crazy, but structure, getting my workout in, really channeling my energy the correct way, and knowing in my head and telling myself I can do this. And, it's funny that I tell myself this right now in this podcast, because I tell myself this, as I tell other people to think positive, tell themselves positive affirmations. But to me, I have to coach myself. And coaching myself entails connecting with others that are like-minded. And I think what really inspired me today was connecting with others in society that really share the same struggles or the same thoughts with me. And it really motivated me and inspired me to know that I can do this. There are other people out there that run their own business, that do their own thing, that have their own goals in mind and are able to see it through. And when I stopped telling myself that, at this roadblock, this road barrier, and that's not going to deter me from it. And when I take away this roadblock, and you have to constantly remind your mind to remove those things in your mind, those roadblocks, those mind blocks that are blocking you from seeing it through, all things become evidently clear. What becomes evidently clear is that your anxiety, your depression, and whatever is stopping you from starting or finishing what you started can be minimized. And you can tell yourself what you want to tell yourself. Sometimes it requires going on a walk, being in nature, or just going out with some friends and getting a regeneration or rethinking through things. And sometimes all it takes is that positive break to assure yourself. And I came from something crazy. I came from a vacation, and I think, refocusing and regrounding myself in what is in my work, and knowing that I'm not going to be in this space forever, but I can achieve it. I can finish what I started. I can eliminate this negativity, and really generating myself based on that, and really focusing on what is, and what should be. And I know oftentimes we look at things and we're concerned if we're going down the right path. And if you're not sure what path you're going down, if it's the right one, if it's assertively correct for you, ask yourself, spend time alone and really listen to yourself and figure out what it is, what your mind is calling you to do, what God is calling you to do in this world, and how intentional it is for you. Because if you're not living your authentic life for yourself, not for yourself, but for what your purpose is in this world, are you really living out your life? And I say this because we get so lost and forget that we all have a reason here in this world. And, when we struggle with emotional defeat and we struggle with all these things that we're telling ourselves in a cycle in our brain, we're really distracting ourselves from what is and what could be. And, positivity breeds positivity. So do not let that disturb you or deceive you from what is and what could be in your life. And the positivity or the positive outlook that can come from this. So do not lose sight of that potential opportunity in your life.